If you've ever spotted the quaint Limekiln burial ground on Creek Road in Bethlehem, you may have wondered who's buried there. How old are those thin, crooked markers made of stone? And you may have thought, are they connected somehow to that neat brick schoolhouse next door? Something that's really unique and interesting about this particular cemetery is its location just on the outskirts of Bethlehem. Once you get through the industrial and heavily urbanized part of Bethlehem, going south and east toward Hellertown, go over the mountain, you're suddenly confronted by a pastoral setting where there's farmland and very few homes. And then all of a sudden you come across something totally unexpected. Now in Bethlehem we have quite a few burial grounds, and some of them are very old. In fact, one of them is downright ancient. That would be the God's Acre, the Moravian Cemetery on Market Street. And of course St. Michael's on the south side is very old. That was founded during the Civil War era. But I think you'll find that Limekiln doesn't have to take a back seat to any of the cemeteries when it comes to the historical aspect.
Prior to the Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783, Jacob Crom, a miller, directed that a tract of his land be donated jointly to the Mennonite Society and the German Baptist Society for use as a burial ground. Crom operated a mill along the Saucon Creek in what was then known as Lower Saucon Township. The exact date of the Limekiln Mennonite group's founding is uncertain, but a Mennonite meeting house was erected next to the cemetery in the early 1700s. The building was used for Reformed Lutheran services until the Lower Saucon Reformed Lutheran Church was erected in 1751 on Easton Road. Dr. B.F. Fackenthal Jr., who in 1922 documented the tombstones in the Limekiln burial ground, counted 18 headstones belonging to the Heller family, including the graves of Continental Revolutionary War soldiers Michael Heller Sr. and his sons Michael Jr. and David Heller. Among them are the graves of Christopher and Veronica Heller, 1688 to 1778, and their children Simon, Michael, Daniel, Ludwig, Christopher Jr., and Maria Magdalena, who are buried in the cemetery along with their families. The Heller family is credited with founding Hellertown. In 1802, a schoolhouse was built and located next to the burial ground. The building burned in 1854 and was rebuilt a few years later. In 1870, the property of the meeting house/school, not including the cemetery, was sold to the Lower Saucon School District. In 1919, the city of Bethlehem annexed the part of Lower Saucon Township in which it was located, and the school became part of the Bethlehem School District. In the 1950s, the building served as a non-denominational Sunday school for a few years until it was sold in 1954 and converted into a private home, which it remains today.
And how long have you lived here, Jim?
Since 1973.
1973, almost 50 years.
Yeah.
And your unique little house here was once a school.
It was in part of the Lower Saucon and Bethlehem schools, yes.
Okay. But it hasn't been a school for how long?
It was derelict in the 50s.
Okay.
And that must give you some idea.
Who cares for the burial ground, if anyone?
The borough of Hellertown, because the early Hellers are buried here.
I noticed one of the stones that I could read it wasn't Christopher, but it was a Heller.
Right. Michael Heller is buried here, and his house is at the end of Creek Road, at the south end of Creek Road.
Okay.
There are 5 people that are buried here who fought in the Revolutionary War.
That always, when I see markers from the Revolutionary War era,
right,
I'm always amazed when I see those. And there are several in there.
You're right. It's a very old cemetery.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
1775 or whatever.
Right.
That's incredible. It really is. How do you like living in an old schoolhouse?
Well, I said they're very quiet neighbors.
The oldest headstone in the Limekiln burial ground that is legible is identified as belonging to Catherine Limekiln and has the year 1771 written on it. Limekiln's native stone marker was carved in German script. The date of the most recent headstone that is legible is for Sylvester Hillegas, who was born September 18, 1846 and died February 9, 1894. In total, the Limekiln Cemetery contains 51 headstones bearing the names of Dare, Geisinger, Guth, Heller, Hillegas, Kaufmann, Krom, Newcomer, Riegel, Roth, Rothrock, Weber, Weinke, and Weineck. Of the unmarked headstones, some are of red shale. It is believed that a few local members of the Lenni Lenape tribe are also buried in this cemetery on the west bank of the Saucon Creek, not far from Lehigh University's Goodman campus and Stabler Arena. The upkeep of the burial ground was in the care of the Bohm family, descendants of Reverend John Philip Bohm, for generations. However, Hellertown Borough Council agreed to accept the donation of the cemetery from owner Calvin Bohm and caretaker Jim Brown in 2003, and today the borough maintains the historic burial ground.